This week we're gonna try something a little different. I'll go out, find some photos to take. In the process, I'll try to break down each image before taking the image, what I do, what I look for, take the image, and then go back to the computer and show you how I edit my images. Just outside of Buffalo, Wyoming, Bighorn National Forest. Never been here before. Looking forward to it. What we're mainly going for today, off in the distance, is some mountains. There is a lot of haze. I'm kind of hoping, I think it's supposed to cool off a little bit this evening. So hopefully some of that haze goes away so we can grab some decent images. If not, we'll see what we can do in Lightroom when we get it in there. But throughout the day, I was waiting for this evening before I hiked up there, because we're not going far. Got to photograph this cool bird, just kept flying around. Just grabbed my chair and just sat right by his post that he kept landing on. Just try to grab a bunch of images. So while I make my way up to this hill over here, we'll go ahead and throw those up and you guys can check those out. So I was peeking up over this hill off in the distance. I think it's a pronghorn. Not gonna be able to get super close to getting good shots. I just want to snap a couple so I can crop in and see what it is. Pretty sure it's a pronghorn. It's quite a bit of wildlife out here in these national forests. They got moose and bear. That's what's awesome about these way out west, middle of nowhere national forests. It's awesome. Surprised it's not spooked. Earlier before we came up here, we heard like 6 gunshots. That was awesome, and I think we're close to finding our spot for our final image. All right, so we got our position for the evening. Went ahead and checked different compositions. This is the one I'm going with. One of the first things I'll look at is when it comes to a valley shot, just kind of the balance. I got hillside on the right with a bunch of trees, and I can get the hillside on the, or hillside on the left, hillside on the right. I can get them both in, and there's in the foreground, there's some trees here, but we also got trees on the left here that'll kind of balance it out so we don't have too much on one side or the other. And as I'm looking at it, come down off that hill on the left and comes down to a valley. You got that real nice light green area right through there, and it's got like a hill inside of it itself. And then just past that, the way it's framed up in my camera, these trees here, it'll start almost like a third into the frame, and that just runs right through the frame, right into those mountains. Just past that, we got the highway. You can see it starts here, and it winds through, and it just follows those trees and disappears behind the hill there. And something I really like is down here, it's kind of hard to see on this camera, we got some buildings like barns and house. And it just kind of helps show perspective, or gives perspective to the image of how big, vast this valley is. Going up the right-hand side, we got another hillside going up, which a lot of that's going to be darker because the sun's going down over there behind that hill. So all the lights more in the center and the left, and hopefully on the mountains, which those are getting better and better. As far as the camera goes, we got the polarizer on. I got the camera vertical, so we're going to go ahead and do a panorama for this one, because I still want, even though the mountains are in haze, I still want them, they can still give a feature in the background. Because if I was to do a horizontal, zoom back to 24mm and just try to get it all in one shot, the mountains will be a lot smaller and more insignificant in the photograph. So by shooting a panorama, I can zoom in the 70mm, start on the left, still get it all in, and those mountains be a little bit more prominent in that shot. And another thing when I'm looking at something like this, especially when it has mountains in it, any interest in the sky. So right now it's just blue skies, cloud here and there. What I make sure I do, I frame it so I cut out as much sky as I can, because there's just no interest. It just draws your eye more towards the rest of the image. So I'm not ready to snap any images right now. Still waiting for that sun to go down and cast a little bit more light on those mountains. Hopefully, we're getting close. Once we get ready to do that, I'll come back and then go over the settings I'm using to capture these images. All right, that sun's gone down some, losing more light on throughout the valley on the right-hand side. The shadow's getting a lot more softer than earlier. We're getting some light on those buildings down there. Just looking through the camera and taking some random photos, I'm actually kind of liking it. So we're gonna go ahead and get some photos now that we have more photos to pick out of, so we don't just wait for that light and then nothing happens. When you're doing a panorama, always make sure your tripod's level, and then also everything's got to be level. One thing I really like about this tripod, you got this lever here, you can just flip, and the whole bowl, it's like almost like a bowl, and it moves around. As long as you got that little bubble right in the center, lock it in, and it's good to go. It doesn't matter if these legs are way low, you can just adjust that head and you're good to go, and just make sure your camera's level. So everything's level, got it framed up. I'll do 3 different shots for each one. So I'll focus 1/3 into the frame, and that should give me focus throughout the whole image. And then go ahead and expose for the bright areas, the mid-tones, and then the darker areas. So right now, we'll put it on live view. Probably do about 4. We'll start right about here, shooting that way. Now we got 3 there. I'll go ahead and move it over. Those mountains are actually coming out pretty decent already. I really don't want to go any brighter because the light off to the right, it really seems to be blowing out. So I'm just going to go a little bit darker. That helps with those mountains and that sky, it seems like. I'm liking the way this is coming out so far. Might not have to do an HDR, really. Might be able to just do one for the main valley, then one darker one for the sky and mountains. It'd be a lot easier to stack them and then brush it in. The further we get to the right, I mean, you can probably see it on from there. It's just really hazy over to the right. But I actually think it's going to be coming out pretty decent. Yeah, we'll finish up there with some of that hill. The more and more that sun goes down, also just like it's nicer and nicer. Light is on those buildings more prominent, bring out those buildings more focus on them. So I'm going to go through this again and just repeat the process. All right, so I got the 100 and 400 on, put the polarizer on this. Hopefully we can see it on this here. Hopefully, can we zoom in? It's not gonna be super clear. But right down here in the bottom corner, I got those houses and buildings, and then still got the mountains in the background. So really like that composition. Still shooting f11, focused on the buildings so that they're the most in focus, which at f11, even at, I'm zoomed in probably about at 150, everything else should still be in focus. So it's gonna be a 1/20th of a second, ISO 100. So I'm really liking that photo. We'll see how that one pulls out. I'm gonna sit here longer, wait for that sun to go down more. So we'll be back. All right, so I went ahead and took another one, found another composition. It's this hill that kind of runs through that valley. Really like the light on it. You got the trees on each side, the pine trees, kind of runs up through the center of the photo, kind of at an angle. And we're actually starting to get some nice light on those mountains, even though still some haze, but it's actually looking pretty nice. Let me show you this nice hill right through that valley, mountains in the background. I am zoomed in about 125-ish. But with this one, since I can stack it, my first image, I went ahead and just zoomed in on this hill. I focused on that hill, exposed for it. Then, since I'm going to stack them, I went up to the top, zoomed all the way in, focused on the mountain, exposed for the mountain, and got 2 shots. And that one, I think I'm actually going to like quite a bit. Once that light started going down, it goes, and just trying to get what I can. But light's getting better and better on those mountains. So give it a few more minutes, see what happens. Plenty of daylight, not that far from the truck. So we should be good. All right, the sun's going down more and more. The scene's not really seem to be getting any better. Still a lot of haze, some light on the peaks, but I've been messing around with different compositions, zooming real tight. With it being so hazy, there's just not a whole lot of real definitive features of the mountains like it was this morning when there was no haze, especially on that like cliffside one. And in the morning, sun's coming from that way, also lighting a completely different direction, bringing out more features. So I think we're going to call it for tonight. I think we got some. I'm actually happy with some of the images. I really wasn't expecting to get. I wasn't expecting to get that many images. So we're going to pack this up, head back to the truck, and jump on the computer and do some editing. Here we are back in the truck. It's been a few days since we were out capturing these images. As you could probably tell from the first part of the video, the final images were already placed in the video. But I went ahead and made a copy of the original photograph and reset the settings so I can show you what I did to get to my final image as you saw in the first part of this video. So with that, let's just go ahead and jump into it and get started. All right, so we've got Lightroom loaded up. Went ahead and already in the correct folder that we need to be to grab our images from the other day. We'll first start with the first image we captured of kind of the panorama of the whole valley. Now, I know when I was out in the field, I was going to try and do a HDR panorama, but after getting in here, it just wasn't really working out. So after going through everything, I actually ended up going with all of the darkest images and then put them into a panorama. And I actually like how that came out first. This is our raw image after merging into a panorama. So the first thing I do every time I first start on a new image, I go down here under lens corrections and just enable profile corrections. And I always click remove chromatic aberrations. Doesn't really happen in landscape photos. It's just a habit from school. Then I scroll up real quick. I just go straight into the sharpening. And again, from school, I just got using no rhyme or reason. I just go 80. It seems to work for me. Radius, I've always done 1.6. The masking I actually do, I just hold Option and drag it. So everything in white is what's getting sharpened. Everything in black is not. So I just kind of do a happy medium where I want all the detail to be sharpened at. And that seems fine enough for me. Let's close this sidebar. When I'm in develop, I don't like that sidebar. So after sharpening, I just go ahead and scroll all the way back up to the top. I just hold shift, I double click on all the sliders I want to use and let Lightroom choose what it thinks it needs to be. And then I can go back and just adjust it how I want. Exposure, hold shift. I just go down through it. Contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. Now, I don't remember the exact settings I use, so I don't want to have to keep pulling it up. So we're just going to, this is just kind of a quick eyeball. Bring the shadows back down a little bit. That's about right. Let's try to warm it up just a little bit. We'll go with that. What I really like is they brought in this dehaze, which can help a lot also with the haze around the mountains. If you go all the way over it, it just goes crazy. So I always just do a little bit. If you're watching mountains in the background, they're starting to come back out a little bit. There is some haze in the valley in the background toward the base of the mountains. So we'll just go +3 on the dehaze slider. Go ahead and pop in, grab a brush, make sure my overlay's on so I can see when I'm brushing, and just kind of go cover everything. Again, I'm just going to kind of go quickly. Feather the edge, go down into the valley slightly, close that overlay, and go back down here to dehaze and just slide just enough to bring some more of that mountain out in the background. Clarity on all my landscapes, especially when it has like rocks and all that, I always stick around between 12 and 15-ish. Adding clarity will darken it up a little bit, so you can always come up here and add a little bit of exposure back into it. Right after that, I just go ahead and go down to vibrance and saturation. I just add a little bit of vibrance, a little bit, and because if you go too much, it just looks fake. I try to keep a little bit more natural. I think 17, and I might add a little bit of saturation, bring that grass out a little bit more. Yeah, I'll bring that vibrance back a little bit. Once I got all those settings about where I want it, next thing I do, I go ahead and just bring in the Photoshop. I don't do much in Photoshop. It's just small corrections because I know I got some dust on my lens that I really need to get off. And I pretty much already know exactly where they're all at. First off, we'll just duplicate this layer. First one, I just name it Retouch because I'm just removing that dust with the spot healing brush. So since I already pretty much know where everything's at, because it's been dirty for a while, I just zoom all the way in. When the skies are clear like this and flat, it makes it really easy because it's not going to really mess anything up. Really need to clean my sensor, so I don't have to do this every single time. So I zoom back out. Once I got pretty much all the stuff I want out of there, if there's any distractions, I can grab my clone brush and erase it out. But there's nothing here that that's too distracting that I want to get out of there. Sometimes there might be a sign or a vehicle I don't want there. It's not really cheating because vehicles aren't permanent. You can always remove them. I just like keep it natural. Next thing I do, I open a burn and dodge layer, bring it down here, and close it black and white. So first thing I like to do, and what really helps, especially with the dehaze, because there's only so much you can do in Lightroom with that without making it look funny. I'll go down to burn, grab a brush. On burn, I bring the opacity slightly up a little, sometimes 7 or 8. Make my brush a little bit bigger here and just kind of go over it. So by burning it and darkening it up, it kind of helps bring out those mountains a little bit in the background. As you can see, it's not a whole lot, but it helps a little bit. Now, another thing I like to do with the burn to kind of help bring out details, if you remember in Being So Hazy, I mentioned there's right back here, that mountain's kind of like a cliffside and you're kind of losing the details. So what I like to do, I kind of go in, going quick. This ain't going to be exact. So these darker areas, which are the low spots, I'll lower my brush to about a 3 and just kind of brushing those, darken those up a little bit. So that'll kind of make it pop through that haze a little bit more and give it bring a little bit more of that detail out. On real detail, when I want to take my time, I mean, I'll go through, especially if there's stones and all that, and I'll really go through because it just gives it depth and more detail, especially in these ripples and valleys. And this here is the cliffside, so if I zoom in, see all these dark areas, I can just brush in, make my brush a little bit smaller, kind of get these veins. Just darkens it up and brings it out a little bit more. Sometimes if they're too dark, I can go back. I'll just put the black layer on and just brush over it and take some of that, lighten it up some. So I'm just gonna go ahead and whip through this real quick. I don't want to drag this video on too long doing every single little thing. So once I get done dodging, I'll come right back. All right, after burning all my dark areas and low spots, I'll go ahead and grab my dodge overlay, bring my brush back down to 3%, and just go over the light areas, which are going to be your high spots, and just kind of brush over those. You really got to keep the low percentage on the dodge because that'll show up a lot more. As you can see, I just hit that. Sometimes I'll go back over it like that. That's just too much. I'll have to go down. I'll just grab 31%, and I'll go ahead and erase some of that there. So 3 is a little bit much, so we'll just go 2. I'm just trying to add a little bit, not trying to go overboard. So pretty much do the same thing even down in the valley on that final image. The center part, it's real bright. So I just grab my burn brush, put it back to 3%, not 23, but 3. Make my brush a little bit bigger. I'll go ahead just like before in these dark areas. Real big brush, and I'll just go over top. Actually, let's bump that up to like 5. Darken those bright areas up a little bit more. even down here. Trees. Trees on the hillside. Just quick. I'm not going into super whole lot of detail. If I really wanted, sometimes I'll go in and spend way more time than I need to hit all the low spots and all that. When I was editing, I noticed this rock. What I really like to do with features like this that had a lot of detail, even though you don't really see it a whole lot, but I'll grab my Dodge. We'll bring this back down to 3. Take my brush. So all these light areas on the rocks, I'm just kind of brush those a little bit more, and it just helps bring those rocks out a little bit more. It's a little bit of detail. Dodge that, lighten that up some. Let's go real quick. Bring out some of that, more of that detail. Pretty close to where we were for the final image. So once I'm happy with everything I got, I'll just hit Command S, save it, go back into Lightroom. So the last thing I'll do is go ahead and crop. On a not so narrow panorama, I like to use the 3x6 crop. Crop that down just enough to get that tree out of the way. Go in that. That's that one. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I'm going to go ahead and unstar that one. I don't want. All right, so the next image we took, if you remember, we zoomed in a little bit more. We got those houses in the foreground, and we get those mountains a little bit bigger. Let's just run through it real quick. All the standard settings I use. Go ahead and just let the computer do its thing. All right, some of those settings, I think the black's a little dark. Bring those up a little bit. Whites are okay, it seems like. Now, another thing kind of help with haze, too, is bringing down those highlights. So, obviously, bring it all the way up, bring it all the way down. Computer did a decent job. I'll let the computer do its thing, and I'll go back and just kind of mess with it, see if I can come up with anything I like better. I'm happy with that. Clarity, again, up around 14, 15-ish. This one, I'm not going to do an overall dehaze. I'm going to go ahead and just do the brush overlays on so I can see what I'm brushing. And this here, we can go slightly, let it go down to this valley because there's some haze down there and I want to try to get rid of some. Brush that out. And we'll go down here to dehaze. Bring that cider up a little bit, and we'll close that. A little bit of vibrance, a little bit of saturation, because we got these buildings down here where they're all red. Bring saturation up a little bit. I'll go ahead and zoom back out. Yeah, those are popping out pretty decently. So from there, just like last time, we'll go ahead and go into Photoshop, duplicate my layer, spot healing brush, and here's that real prominent dust on my sensor, so that one always sticks out really bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of these marks real quick. All right, got rid of that dust. Go up here, grab my burn and dodge layer. Sometimes I'll keep it in black and white, that way you can see the darker areas better. Brush and burn. So I'm just gonna go ahead and knock this out again real quick, and I'll come back. All right, next, just like last time, I'll go ahead and go dodge on this mountain face. Just enough, make them peek out of that haze just a little bit. Now on this image, when I was in here, this foreground down here, right in the corner, it's a little bit dark and you can see the light areas. So I just went ahead, I'm gonna bump this up. Let's see what 7 does. I'm just gonna brush that whole. 7's not doing too much. I just go a little bit at a time. So like I said, if you do a whole lot, here's 47. It just takes a little much. But actually that 47 wasn't that bad. So well, let's just go 24. Just keep going over it until I get, because this corner we got these rocks down here. Just brings out a little bit more of that detail. Now these lighter areas, focus on hitting those a little bit more. So not a whole lot. We don't want it too light and distracting. This bright area back here, go ahead and grab my burn brush again. Go with 6. Actually, we'll go with 8. And we'll just go over that. Bring that down a little bit. This highlight on leave. And I like the buildings the way they're at. They're just a little bit mute. I'll go ahead and darken some of these other areas in the trees. Just brings contrast. I like it. It's all personal preference. There's no rhyme or reason if you want it a certain way. That's the power of the photographer. So I don't think that's looking too shabby. So just like before, we'll just come in and save it. Command S and then Command Tab. We'll just switch right back into Lightroom. All right, so here's one we just did. Here's one we went with before. One we just did is a little bit warmer. As we're seeing the second one, let's go bring that down a little bit. Bring it down to -5. And then next thing's crop. Man, after redoing this stuff, I'm actually really liking it. Or I'm actually liking it better. It's no rhyme or reason. I just kind of like that crop. Let's just real quickly move on to our last image we took. That's what was out of the camera. I'll run through it real quick. 4. Those. 80, 1.6. Masking. White balance. Go back a little bit on that. Exposure, contrast. Highlight, shadows, whites, blacks. I'll bring these blacks up a little bit. Whites down a little bit. Shadows, and we'll leave about where it's at. Highlights. Clarity up around that 14, 15 range. Now we'll dehaze the whole photograph on this one. A little bit on the whole photo. Bring that vibrance up a little bit. Saturation. Grab our brush and go ahead and do the mountains in the background. Close overlay. Down to dehaze. Just add a little bit. Because in Photoshop, we go ahead and burn it. It just helps make those mountains pop out a little bit more that we couldn't get out of camera. Switch over to Photoshop. Okay. Again, as usual, get rid of our dust spots. All right, grab our burn dodge folder or overlay. Go ahead and brush this in. Go a little bit more. Zoom in a little bit more. I'm just gonna run through this real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the dodge as before, just like in that other image. And we had this rock pile down here on these hills here. Just kind of go over the light areas, not with 14 though. Let's go with 8. Try that. Go over it a few times until you get what you like. We'll grab our burn real quick. We'll just go down to 3 or something. We'll just go over the dark areas in the foreground. We'll darken it up a little bit. Show a little more detail. I think that looks pretty decent. We'll go ahead and burn the back side of this. We'll burn these trees some. A little bright for me, I think, just for my taste. This light area here. That center. All right, just like before, Command S. All right, go ahead and now we're back in Lightroom. There it is. I like the one I did for the video. A little bit more, it's a little bit darker. They're both decent, but so for the most part, that's pretty much what I do for every photo. But again, every photo is different, and a lot of times I'll spend a little bit more time in Lightroom. I pretty much run through pretty much that quick. Just get it where I need it to be, and just tweak it. So that's pretty much how I do my photos once I get them to Lightroom. I usually spend a little bit more time on them, but as far as Lightroom, I know pretty much the settings I want to do. What's nice, you just hold Shift, click all those exposures, all the different sliders, and then you can go back and just adjust it what you want. Sometimes the computer spits out, and you don't have to fix it. But just remember, the main thing to take out of, especially when it comes to photo editing, there's no right or wrong way how an image needs to look. It's all your perspective. When I edit to how I saw it in my mind when I was out in the field. Other people like more extreme. Like if we jump back in here, like clarity on this photo, they might just go, "Oh, I just like clarity. I like more vibrance and more saturation." If that's how you like it, that's fine. That's your taste. Just have fun with it. Remember, it's your image. You make it how you want. And if other people don't like it, some people will. So thanks if you made it to the end of this video and watched the editing process. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And as usual, if you enjoyed the content, go ahead and like, subscribe if you haven't. It really helps out the channel. It gets me out there to more people who might enjoy this. Tomorrow we're going to end up packing up. We're going to head out to Cody, meet up with my cousin for a few days. And then hopefully next time I see you, we'll take a cruise through Yellowstone National Park, which I've never been to, which I think will be pretty epic, hopefully. Until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you out there.